This is Gary the snail, famous for being SpongeBob's best friend and always being hungry. But while Gary might seem like a normal pet, he's actually hiding a very dark secret. I actually believe Gary is really the prince of an alien snail planet and was sent to Bikini Bottom to destroy and take over the city using an army of snails. Who is Gary? Gary is SpongeBob's pet snail. Gary is shown to be nothing more than a simple snail who keeps SpongeBob company in his pineapple. I mean, the strangest thing he does is meow like a cat. But beyond that, he's nothing more than SpongeBob's pet, or is he? While the first episode does not give us many clues about Gary's real identity, it doesn't take long in the show before we start to see Gary doing some very questionable things. In the episode Boating School, we see SpongeBob attempt to do his driver's test. After failing, he goes home, cries in his bed, and talks to Gary about how he feels. While the two of them are having a conversation, Gary is randomly seen wearing some boots in one of the shots, but then they suddenly disappear moments later. Now this is weird, considering Gary doesn't have any legs. Later in the episode, we see Gary riding a unicycle with pedals that are very hard to reach for his tiny body. Another small but weird moment, considering he doesn't have any legs. While these two moments could easily be viewed as nothing, I believe this is actually the first time we get to see a glimpse of who Gary actually really is. And things only get weirder from here. Now that we have proved that there is something weird that may be going on with Gary, let's get into this idea even more. I believe there are ways we can prove that Gary is more than just a simple snail. These include his amazing talents, his shape-shifting body, and his super smart brain. So let's start with the first point, his amazing talents. Throughout the show, we see Gary doing things that a normal snail would not be able to do. In the episode Treats, Gary is trained by SpongeBob using a snack called snail bites. While he's training, we not only get to see how far he is willing to go for some food, but we also get to see some of Gary's amazing hidden talents. He's able to lift 1,000 pounds with just his eyes. He can somehow jump out of a plane and open a parachute. He's able to create this incredible sculpture, and he can operate a motorbike, jumping over a bunch of school buses and through a fire ring. All of these things are crazy. Not even a human is able to do all this stuff. But you could argue that it doesn't really prove that he has amazing talents throughout the show, which is okay. So here are some more quick examples. In the episode Pineapple RV, we see him driving a bus, which SpongeBob and Patrick seem totally okay with. In the episode A Pal for Gary, a giant sea creature almost eats SpongeBob, but Gary saves SpongeBob by using a rope to whip and scare the monster fish. And in the episode Gary's Got Legs, SpongeBob gives Gary a pair of his arms and legs, which Gary is somehow able to attach to his body and use. Yeah, that one's a weird one. Now, there are many more examples throughout the show, but with only these few examples, it really shows and expresses that Gary has some amazing talents. But what if I tell you the most suspicious of them all is Gary's ability to shapeshift his body? While Gary might look like an ordinary snail most of the time, we've actually seen him shapeshift quite a bit. For example, in the episode Have You Seen This Snail? When Gary goes to eat his food, out of nowhere, he grows 2 pairs of arms. Whenever we see Gary without his shell, he usually just has a flat body, but sometimes he's got a bump where his shell is meant to be. Sometimes he's got a record player. Sometimes he's got a... Okay, you get what I'm saying. An example of Gary being more intelligent than Einstein is in the episode Sleepy Time. In the episode, SpongeBob is able to visit the dreams of his friends, like Patrick Mr. Krabs and Squidward, eventually making his way over to Gary. In Gary's dream, SpongeBob appears in a huge library filled with books. While walking around, he bumps into Gary, who appears as a human snail dressed in a purple cloak.
SpongeBob? Gary? How dare you invade the sanctity of my dreams? Gary! Dreams have been thought of as windows to another realm. Let me not mar that perfect dream by an oral stain, but so adjust my daily night that it may come again. Emily Dickinson wrote that. Who?
While this is only a dream, it is very possible that it is like real-life dreams, where it reflects on what's going on in our brain. I don't think Gary is secretly a human snail, but I do think Gary is extremely smart, especially how wise he sounded in his dream. There is still one more thing you need to know about Gary, and once you know this, you'll never look at Gary the same way ever again. The original story for the Sponge on the Run movie was meant to reveal that Gary is actually from an alien planet from far away, where snails all live in peace, and the planet was ruled by King and Queen, who are Gary's mom and dad, making Gary the prince of this alien planet. One day the planet was attacked by an army of cats looking to destroy the snail species. This forced Gary's mom and dad to put their son, Gary, into an escape pod and shoot him off into space. Gary would eventually arrive at Earth, where he would land in Bikini Bottom, an underwater paradise that no cat would ever be able to get to. After not having any food and having nowhere to live, he would find SpongeBob at Camp Coral, and they would become best friends. Now that we know Gary is a prince from an alien snail planet, Gary was sent to Bikini Bottom in the first place to escape the cat invasion and also find somewhere safe to live. Gary, already in a Bikini Bottom, would make it easier for all the snails from his planet to relocate much easier. I believe Gary is currently building up an army to take over Bikini Bottom, so he can take over and have a place for the alien snails to live. But I know what you're thinking, that can't be true in the episode. Chatterbox, Gary SpongeBob buys a collar for Gary that allows him to talk.
Hello there, Papa Bob.
SpongeBob asks Gary what he dreams about. Gary's response is very weird.
What do you dream about?
Mostly, I dream I'm flying above it all,
Oh, that's sweet.
while I breathe fiery destruction upon my enemy.
Yikes. If I were SpongeBob, I would have ran instantly to warn everyone. If you think about it, Gary has this perfect city for the alien snails to move to, however, it's too overpopulated. If he gets rid of the Bikini Bottom residents, he can free up the space, so his species would be okay. But now, you may be wondering, is there any proof that Gary is even building up an army of snails to take over Bikini Bottom? Yes, there is, in the Sponge Out of Water movie, when the whole of Bikini Bottom is in complete chaos because the Krusty Krab runs out of Krabby Patties. You won't believe what Gary is doing. He's in SpongeBob's house preparing an army of snails. This makes sense because it is a perfect time to take over Bikini Bottom. Gary even refers to himself as King of the Snails, proving his royalty and loyalty to his planet. I don't know, you guys. I might be overthinking everything, but to me, it makes sense. Everything matches up, and is just honestly scary that Gary is hiding this dark secret from everyone. Well, that's all I got for you guys. If any of you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below with video recommendations.